and theorize, like even, love. Like, I always say love is nothing that should be able, that should be explained. Love is something that felt, yet we have, a million writers, a million teachers and gurus and all sorts of people that are trying to teach people what love is. You understand?
Yes, yes. I see what you're saying.
So it's like we are constantly having a battle between, the intellect and your heart, basically. You know what I mean? Let me ask you a question, right? Because I actually did a video on this. Do you think, I hate to call them the powers that be, but let's just call them the powers that be, right? You call them New World Order, Deep State, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, right? Let's call them the enemy, right? Do you think that the enemy purposely, how should I say this, purposely took away meanings from certain words, or gave new meanings to certain words so we wouldn't be able to tap in to the truth as much, basically?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's even on a spiritual level that gets to, because words are very powerful.
Right, right. That's what I was talking about. Because I think that, even if you look at the history of slavery, and when in Americas they brought slaves over, I talked about that we should notice how the first thing that they started to attack was they started to make sure that they separated slaves that were from the same tribes, that could understand one another, that could, possibly speak to one another. And, they took away their names. You know, you kind of see that? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's similar with us. I mean, us being slaves, in another form, right? So, yeah, definitely. They cut, first of all, they want to cut you off from your roots, right? That's so important. And so they beat all this knowledge out of people or slaves. So they don't, because if you cut off from your roots, excuse me, if you're cut off from your roots, you, for one thing, you can't even remember who your enemy is anymore. But they may have their history intact, your enemy, so they know you, but you've lost your history, so now you're at a huge deficit. You're getting attacked and you don't know who's attacking you or why. So it's at a huge advantage for them to cut people off from their history, because they essentially, win a huge battle that way against the people they're trying to control. And then is that on the same vein of what you're talking about?
No, my brother, these are such important words that you just said. These are such critical and important words that you just spoke. And I think that has been why so many ancient cultures around the world have fallen prey.
I agree. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, they try to get the words, the languages themselves all confused, kind of like sort of a Tower of Babel thing, and the languages were confused or whatever. You know the story of the Tower of Babel?
Well, see, I was going to bring that up, but I didn't know if I was going to go in the right direction, so I'm glad that you brought it up. Right, so the Tower of Babel, so basically everyone spoke one language, right?
Yeah, and consequently everyone was unified. So
Right.
what divided the people was actually the language itself. And so there you see it's such a powerful tool of division, potentially. So like I was saying earlier, like you can have one word and like you'll be having a discussion with someone and you're trying to kind of reach an understanding with them and it's not going anywhere, and you wonder like what's going on here, why are we having this misunderstanding? And it's because the words you're using mean one thing to you, but they might mean something else to the other person, right?
You know, one crazy thing is that from the amount of languages that I know, again, I mentioned this in the video I made, that the English language is, I think that it's that one language that has the most multiple interpretations for one word. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, interesting.
and that's why in the video I said that the English language in particular has been used to destroy us.
Yeah, I've seen, I've kind of thought about that myself. Yeah, it
Because
seems.
uh-huh.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, one sec. I just got to pop up here. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I lost my thought. I got distracted.
No, so yeah, the English language. You said that you also thought about this.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, because I was looking kind of at the origins of English. Basically around like the 16th century, 17th century. Because before that, there was no English. It was just
Exactly.
it was like 4 or 5 different languages kind of mixed together.
Yeah, because you had Latin, you had Germanic languages,
And you had the Celtic.
right?
Yeah, they were all mixed in one spot. And and like English today is basically, it's like 50% Latin and with a core of Germanic and a lot of other stuff thrown in. And but yeah, the actual, when it was like codified into like this, this is a standard language, and they declared it a language. It was like it was basically an assignment from the crown of England. They wanted this new language, and they created this whole set of what we look at as classic literature today. But all these people that wrote the first works in English were all agents of the crown.
Like Shakespeare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a perfect example. And Sir Francis Bacon, I know he was like this really big figure at the time, and he just had his hand in so many pots. And the guy was a notorious sorcerer, apparently. And he even, it's funny, he created the scientific method. Basically, he's credited for that. I always found that funny, because he did not believe in materialistic science. Like, he believed in spirits, right? He believed in knowledge you could have that was not just, you could have knowledge that was not necessarily just based on materialism, right? He believed that, but yet he brought this way of thinking into the world, where now people think the only way you can know something is if you have this process of analyzing material substances, and that's the only way you can know anything.
Bro, sometimes when you speak, it's like, I don't know if you know this yourself, but you touch on such fundamentally deep levels. I just recently, again, I'm kind of like promoting myself right now, but it's just, it literally has a lot to do with it, because recently I just made a video called Just Be, and this is exactly what I was trying to say in the video, that we have, it's like we constantly have a battle between the intellect and the spirit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, elaborate though.
Well, it's exactly what you just said about this Sir Francis guy, is that we have come to such a point where, if we want to believe in something, having faith is no longer enough. You have to, feel it and touch it, and then build a theory around it and theorize, like, even, love. Like, I always say love is nothing that should be able, that should be explained. Love is something that felt, yet we have, a million writers, a million teachers and gurus and all sorts of people that are trying to teach people what love is. You understand? So
yes, I see what you're saying.
So it's like we are constantly having a battle between, the intellect and your heart, basically.